All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, glad to be back.
This time, we're tackling something a little different, something that I think we've all kind of wondered about at some point. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we see these things in movies and TV shows all the time, and sometimes you just kind of scratch your head and go, is that, is that how that really works?
Right.
So today, we're talking about legal mistakes in movies and TV shows.
Yeah, some of the biggest offenders.
We've got a whole stack of examples here from some of our favorite courtroom dramas and legal thrillers.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to break down just how far Hollywood stretches the truth.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is for dramatic effect, right? You got to keep the audience engaged.
Of course.
But some of it's just plain wrong and could really give people the wrong idea about how the legal system actually works.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, how many times have we seen some dramatic confession on the stand or,
Yeah.
A surprise witness that just appears out of nowhere?
Right, like that never happens.
Never happens in real life.
It would be chaos.
Total chaos. But hey, it makes for good TV.
It does. It does.
So let's jump right in and see just how much Hollywood is bending the rules of law.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so first up, we've got to talk about My Cousin Vinny.
A classic.
Such a great movie, and it actually gets a lot of things right about courtroom procedure. But there's this one moment that always stands out. Is when Vinny, he's played by Joe Pesci.
Right.
He just completely blindsides everyone with his expert witness.
Yeah. Pulls her right out of the audience practically,
Yeah.
right?
It's hilarious.
It is. It is.
But in real life,
Not so much.
not so much.
You can't just, spring a witness on the other side like that. I mean, the whole point of the discovery process is to make sure both sides know exactly who's going to be testifying and what they're going to say.
Listen, it's about fairness, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's about making sure everyone has a chance to prepare their case and that there are no surprises that could unfairly sway the jury.
Right. No one's getting ambushed with some secret witness they've never heard of.
Exactly. And, expert witnesses especially, they have to provide detailed reports beforehand, outlining their qualifications and their analysis of the evidence so the other side can, challenge their expertise if necessary.
So no pulling a Vinny Gambini in real life.
Not if you want to stay on the judge's good side.
That's for sure. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about another classic movie trope, the dramatic confession during cross-examination.
Oh, yeah. This one's a favorite.
You know the scene I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
The lawyer's grilling the witness, and suddenly they just crack under the pressure and spill the beans, admit to the whole crime.
Right. And usually it's with some, perfectly timed question that just catches them off guard.
Yeah, and the courtroom erupts in gasps and murmurs, and the defendant's like, oh, no.
It's so satisfying to watch.
It is. But let's be real here. Does that actually happen?
I mean, it makes for a great story. But in reality, cross-examination is a lot more meticulous and controlled.
Right.
I mean, lawyers can't just badger witnesses into confessing. They have to follow strict rules of evidence and procedure.
Yeah, and the judge is there to make sure things stay fair and orderly.
Exactly. So while a skilled lawyer can definitely use cross-examination to expose inconsistencies or weaknesses in a witness's testimony, it's very rare that you'd see someone just completely break down and confess like that.
So no Perry Mason moments where the witness just crumbles and the case is instantly solved?
Not quite. I mean, sometimes you might get a witness to contradict themselves or admit to something they were trying to hide,
Yeah.
but it's usually a much slower and more nuanced process.
Okay, so those dramatic confessions might be mostly fiction, but what about those intense courtroom showdowns, like the one in A Few Good Men?
You talking about that you can't handle the truth scene.
That's the one. I mean, come on, that scene is iconic.
It is. It's so intense.
Tom Cruise just going head-to-head with Jack Nicholson and finally getting him to admit everything.
It's every lawyer's dream, right?
Right, but again, is that how it really goes down?
Probably not.
Probably not.
First of all, like we talked about before, lawyers can't just bully witnesses into saying what they want.
And that kind of aggressive questioning would likely get them in trouble with the judge.
Yeah, I mean, the judge has a responsibility to protect the witness and to make sure the trial is conducted fairly.
Right. So, while you might see some heated exchanges in a courtroom,
Sure.
it's usually not to that level of dramatic confrontation.
And also, I think it's worth pointing out that the whole code red thing in that movie,
Yeah,
it's not necessarily a crime in itself, right?
exactly. I mean, ordering a code red might be against military regulations or whatever,
Right.
but it's not automatically illegal unless it can be proven that it resulted in harm or was part of some other criminal act.
So the movie kind of simplifies things a bit for the sake of the story.
It does, but hey, it's still a great movie.
It is. All right, so let's switch gears and talk about something a little more on the comedic side. Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey.
Oh, yeah. That one's hilarious.
So his character gets cursed to tell the truth. And he's a lawyer. So, of course, it leads to all sorts of chaos in the courtroom.
Right, like when he starts objecting to his own questions.
Yes. I know, right? It's so absurd, but that's what makes it funny.
It is, but in a real courtroom, that would never fly.
Yeah.
I mean, lawyers can't just object whenever they feel like it.
They can't.
There are specific rules about when and why you can object. Usually it's because the other side is asking a question that's inadmissible or irrelevant, or maybe they're badgering the witness.
So it's not just a free-for-all of objections.
Not at all. It's a strategic tool that lawyers use to protect their clients' interests and make sure the trial is conducted fairly.
And I'm guessing a judge wouldn't be too happy with a lawyer who just kept objecting for no reason.
No, they would not. They'd probably get a stern warning or even be held in contempt of court.
So no Jim Carrey antics in a real courtroom.
Definitely not.
All right, so we've talked about some pretty outlandish legal scenarios, but let's get into something a little more serious. Ethical violations by lawyers.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, lawyers have a strict code of conduct that they have to follow, and there are serious consequences if they break the rules. Absolutely. We're talking about things like conflicts of interest, breaching client confidentiality, and presenting false evidence.
And a good example of this is the devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah. Keanu Reeves, the character in that movie, is a walking ethical nightmare.
Right. He's sleeping with a witness, ignoring conflicts of interest, and even hiding evidence.
It's like he's trying to get disbarred.
And in real life, he probably would be.
Oh, for sure. Any one of those violations could lead to disciplinary action from the State Bar Association.
Up to and including disbarment, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, the stakes are really high when it comes to legal ethics.
They are, and for good reason. I mean, people's lives and liberties are on the line, so it's crucial that lawyers maintain the highest ethical standards.
Okay, so let's lighten things up a bit again and talk about a movie that takes a really unique approach to legal defense.
Chicago.
Oh yeah, the musical.
The musical, exactly. So they basically turn the courtroom into a stage and use song and dance to sway the jury.
It's so over the top, but it works. It does. It's incredibly entertaining. Good. But obviously that's not how things work in real life.
No juries are supposed to base their decisions on the facts and the law, not on how well a lawyer can sing and dance.
Right. I mean, emotional appeals can play a role, but they can't be the sole basis for a verdict.
Exactly. And while a good lawyer might use storytelling and persuasive techniques,
Sure.
they can't just turn the courtroom into a Broadway show.
So no jazz hands and tap dancing your way to an acquittal.
Sadly not.
Okay, let's talk about another ethical dilemma that often pops up in movies and TV shows, conflicts of interest.
Yeah, this one can be tricky.
It is. I mean, a lawyer has a duty to represent their client to the best of their ability. But what happens when their personal feelings or relationships get in the way?
Right, like in The Judge, where Robert Downey Jr.'s character defends his estranged father.
Exactly. They have a really complicated past, and it's clear that their personal issues are going to influence how he handles the case.
And in real life, that would be a huge red flag. Lawyers are supposed to be impartial and objective, and if there's even a hint of a conflict of interest, they're supposed to recuse themselves from the case.
The judge might remove them, right?
Exactly. The court has a responsibility to ensure that everyone gets a fair trial, and that includes having a lawyer who can represent them without any bias.
So no mixing family drama with legal proceedings.
Not if you want to do things by the book.
Okay, now let's talk about a movie that, while being a classic and dealing with important themes, also highlights a really troubling aspect of the legal system, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, yeah, that one's a tough one.
It is, and the scene that really stands out is the trial of Tom Robinson, a black man falsely accused of assaulting a white woman.
And the jury is all white.
Exactly, which sadly was very common in the South during that time period.
It was, and it just shows how deeply ingrained racial bias was in the legal system.
Right, and even though the movie is set in the 1930s, it raises important questions about jury diversity and fairness that are still relevant today.
Absolutely. I mean, the idea is that a jury should be a representative cross-section of the community so that the defendant can be judged by a group of their peers.
And if the jury is not diverse, it can lead to all sorts of problems, right?
It can. I mean, studies have shown that diverse juries are more likely to deliberate, carefully consider all the evidence, and reach fair verdicts.
So, To Kill a Mockingbird serves as a powerful reminder of how important jury diversity is for a just legal system.
It does, and it's something that we still need to be vigilant about today.
Okay, so another thing that movies love to do is pull out that surprise evidence at the last minute.
Yeah.
to completely turn the tide of the case.
Oh, yeah, like in Philadelphia when they suddenly introduced those medical records.
Exactly. It's like a magic bullet that solves everything.
But in reality, it doesn't work that way.
No.
There are rules about evidence and how it can be introduced in court.
Uh-huh.
You can't just spring new evidence on the other side without giving them a chance to review it and challenge its authenticity.
So no last-minute saves with some hidden document.
Not unless you want to risk a mistrial.
All right, so finally, let's talk about a movie that takes legal proceedings to a whole other level of crazy. The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, you're talking about Scarecrow's Kangaroo Court?
That's the one. I mean, come on, that's not even pretending to be a real trial.
It's straight up dystopian justice.
Right. There's no due process, no right to an attorney, no presumption of innocence. It's just pure chaos.
And of course, it's all presided over by a villain.
Naturally. But hey, it makes for a pretty intense scene, right?
It does. It does.
So I guess the takeaway here is that while movies can be entertaining and thought-provoking, we should always remember that they're not always accurate when it comes to portraying the legal system.
Right. They often take liberties with the facts and the law to create more dramatic and compelling stories.
And that's fine as long as we don't mistake Hollywood fiction for legal reality.
Exactly. It's important to be critical viewers and to remember that the real world is much more complex and nuanced than what we see on screen.
So there you have it, folks, a deep dive into some of the most common legal mistakes in movies and TV shows.
And hopefully you learned a thing or two about how the legal system actually works.
And now for a little something to think about as you go about your day.
Okay.
We've talked about how movies often get the law wrong, but what other professions or systems do you think are frequently misrepresented in film and TV?
That's a good question.
And what are the potential implications of those inaccuracies? I mean, could they shape our perceptions of these professions or even influence our behavior in real life?
This is definitely something to consider.
So next time you're watching a movie or a TV show and you see something that seems a little off,
Yay.
don't be afraid to do a little research and find out how things really work.
You might be surprised at what you discover.
And that's all for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.